All right, RTD Live Talk. We're live for a late night live stream. Excited to be back for another episode. And I want to check in and find out what's going on in your neck of the woods. And as you guys can tell from tonight's subject matter, we're going to be talking about the economic implosion underway and how there will be no quick recovery at the end of the day. So before I dive any further, let me check in via chat and see who is tuning in, making sure everything runs smoothly. And I'll give it a second before I begin going. And so it says, did you see the Marines stand up to the fake cops in Sacramento? I did not see that. I will definitely have to look that up. And so let me see here. Hopefully everyone is doing well. And also, if we have any new viewers, let me know where you're watching from. We'd love to welcome you into the chat, or to the community rather. So feel free to let me know via chat where you're watching from. And what I thought it would be great tonight just to discuss some of Michael Snyder's, who does a great job of taking and compiling all the data. Given it seems like pretty much now it's every quarter he puts together the previous quarter's data to pretty much highlight his point in the fact that there's 18 signs that we're facing some issues. And as I threw it a little extra, in there saying that there'll be no quick recovery. And so you still have the mainstream narrative of, it's just a matter of getting through this current down spell, and then we'll be great Q3, Q4, as Steve Mnuchin mentioned. But once again, there's no ease of just flicking on a switch and getting things back to normal within this country, nevertheless, the entire global economy. So going to thumb through the 18 reasons, and then after that, open the phone lines up to hear from you guys to find out what's going on in your neck of the woods, and we'll go from there. So we got Atar Ugoisoy says 2 more Wendy burgers running out of meat. I saw that one. We got Jay. It says, good evening, Tampa in the building. Appreciate you for joining, Jay. JBW, your Mike sent you an email. Okay, I'll check that out. Bosman Awaken, checking in. Spirit, how you guys doing? So let me actually put up on the screen here. We got El Monte from Maryland. We got David from Quebec. Alice Cooper's, can I Google the vid? So yeah, I might end up looking the video up as well. And so I'm curious to find out what other stories might be developing that I have not come across or that might not be touched on in this quick little rundown. So I'm going to bring it up on my screen now, and we'll dive right into the 18. And then after that, I'll open it up and we'll go from there. We got a Gospel Outside Ministries from Philly. Appreciate you tuning in. Silver New Jack from White Plains, New York. So I appreciate everybody taking time to join us. And I definitely would love to hear from you guys once those phone lines open up. Phone line, rather. It's not multiple lines. But anyway, here we have an article here that came out yesterday. And I wanted to actually highlight some of the points that Mr. Snyder decided to highlight in this article here. Go through it one by one and get your thoughts on it, because it's all plays into the fact that there will be no quick recovery, as I'm sure you guys are aware of. But the mainstream narrative, for some reason, is that Q3, Q4 will be better in the midst of the government borrowing and printing and all the other stuff like that. So we'll get into that. But it says here, the following are 18 signs that we're facing a record-breaking economic implosion in 2020. So the very first one, it says, according to economists surveyed by the Wall Street Journal, the April jobs report will show that the unemployment rate in the United States is now above 16%. And I think I've talked about this before. That's a pretty friendly number. I would like to say that number is going to be a lot worse than that, because there's not going to be a simple everyone going back to work, especially when you are incentivizing businesses by providing them stimulus to keep people on the payroll to where they may not necessarily have to come in still. And so here's the article he's referring to here from the Wall Street Journal, rather. And so that number there, 16%, that's kind of nice. Number 2, it says U.S. manufacturing orders just crashed by the most ever. And so once again, we are a consuming nation. So not only are the numbers for the manufacturers down, but yet consumption is also down. So here's an article from Zero Hedge that shows everything in the red. So since 2014, so we're setting all-time highs. Here's that visual lady was referring to here. So as of now, we are well below anything on this chart. This chart goes back to 1960. So I'm assuming all these other major dips here were recessions. And so the 2008-09 is this little blip right here. And we well shot past that boy with no problems. Number 3, it says the U.S. gasoline consumption just dropped to the lowest level ever. So with all those tankers piled up inside of On Shores, I'm not surprised at all. So here's a little chart here. Weekly barrels per day has dropped significantly down to 5 as opposed to the typical or peaked at a little less than 10. So what that means is cheaper gas prices at the pump for now. But it's going to be problems down the line as the debt implodes and as the government subsidize oil manufacturers and everybody else. So next one here. Light vehicle sales in the U.S. just fell to the lowest level that we have seen since the 1970s. And so it's one of those things where people are not employed and income is not as constant, or the confidence in future employment is not there. I don't really see people deciding to go out and purchase vehicles, but I could be wrong. And I'd imagine from a video I did earlier about this new form of UBA that's been rolled out, if they sustain that, especially utilizing the Boost Act, I'd imagine there'll be a lot of people taking that $2,000 per adult and probably $500 per child, which could probably add up to maybe, say $3,000-$4,000, depending on the size of your family per month. And at that point, I can imagine people going out and buying new cars and the housing market going up. And so that's also I want to touch on. Let me, I'll take this down. So we'll pick back up on this one on number 4. But one thing I wanted to mention, I noticed that Gregory Manarino touched on it yesterday about how he anticipates the market's melting up. And it does make sense that we're going to see all-time highs in the same inflated asset prices of all assets that's been marked as the primary indicators to give a person the confidence in their net worth. So you got your retirement portfolios are going to go up because we have Federal Reserve getting directly into the bonds, the ETFs, subsidizing companies, and all types of things. So that will be reflected in the stock prices. Therefore, people are going to feel that their portfolios are doing better. And as well as the government probably going to roll out an infrastructure plan pretty soon, which will provide jobs. As you know, so the government loves, touting, having great job numbers. And right now, with 30 million and counting unemployed, I can imagine this next round of stimulus, which will probably come in next quarter, give or take for sure, focusing on stimulus, will probably look to put some of that 30 million plus, whatever it might be at the time, back to work in the form of some type of government projects or something like that. So we could see a time where outside of what's happening around the world, we can see all those asset prices going up. Therefore, all the quote unquote safe haven assets, such as precious metals, and for some, it might be the cryptocurrency sector, might take a dip. And so I would not be surprised if there isn't a longer period of time to be able to get your weight up. But yet, once again, they can prolong this correction as long as they want. But I would imagine they will not be able to create and to restock the shelves of precious metals dealers to provide cheaper or keep that spot price at what it is currently, minus those premiums that will continue to go up. So I thought I would just touch on that real quick. And so let me check in via chat and see who else is tuned in thus far. It says, my entire family called me a weirdo 30 to 45 days ago when I stocked up on 400 pounds of meat. Now they know how serious it is. Jay, and that's a good point, man. So outside of what we're being told, I also saw an article just literally an hour ago saying that it looks as if the current health pandemic has taken a right turn and it's mutated, and therefore it's even more contagious. And so it's very interesting how, as the numbers that were anticipated on being extremely large didn't turn out that way initially, that they've already talking about the mutation and things are expected to get worse right at the same time that every state wants to reopen. So, I take that meat. I mean, apart from seeing Tyson, it says 45% of their employees are infected. That's true. But once again, a lot of overwhelming majority of the people who have come across that particular health scare have recovered. An overwhelming majority have recovered. Therefore, they would probably be able to go back to work, if not pick up where they left off at, for those that are capable of fighting it and beating the current health scare. So, but yeah, it's one of the things where the mainstream news is really spinning this fear thing. They have to make sure they prolong this narrative of everything is crumbling and we need to step in, referring to the government. We need to step in and save the day and provide liquidity and provide all this stuff. So, once again, the mainstream stories we receive, I always consider the opposite of that. And so low blood pressure said, "What's up, Mike? How's the weather here? It's 91. Yeah, today it was 40, 50 degrees, but yesterday it was like 60 and Sunday it was pretty warm. So yeah, it's fluctuating, man, but we've yet to get that good weather." Says, "Hi, everyone. Got Ganesh from 75G, 750 grams. Hope everyone is having a good day thus far." Yeah, so any new viewers, feel free to let me know where you're watching from, and I definitely want to hear from you guys in a moment. So I'm going to breeze through these 18, and then I'll be curious to find out, are there any things that Michael Snyder may have left off this list that you guys want to mention? And so I'll get back to this article here. All right, so for those of us tuning in, I'm reading from Michael Snyder, who was a former guest here on RTD. He does somewhat like a quarterly update as to why he think the economy is not doing too well. And so he listed out a couple of them for us. So I'm going to just thumb through these real quick so we can move on along when they actually get the phone lines open. And so number 5 says the government programs that are supposed to get small businesses through the crisis have been a tremendous failure. And so we know that they're on second round of the PPP. And once again, I would imagine within this week or next week, as that the one banker mentioned, that they'll be running out of funds. So there'll be need for more stimulus. But Mnuchin has made it clear that he'll be willing to go back and they'll be negotiating and trying to get as much funds as needed to help out the small business. That's their primary focus, it seems. Next one here, the coming meat shortages. So speaking of meat, so it says, already here, according to the New York Post, Costco is now rationing meat, and Kroger is warning customers of very serious supply chain problems. And so, once again, take it for what it's worth on the surface. I would imagine, based upon the powers that be that's overseeing this current pandemic, they want this thing to last as long as possible. So when it comes to the dairy as well as the meat places, a lot of the people who stand to profit off of this current pandemic will probably be willing to sacrifice some of their gains by closing down some of their, meat packing places, as well as a lot of these major retail chains, to keep this thing going, knowing that no matter what, if Costco has issues, if Kroger has issues, they would classify as one of those businesses that would fall under the window of getting government aid. So you better believe that Costco, Kroger, and all the Publix and all the other places, major food retailers, grocery store retailers around the country, in this third round of stimulus, there's going to be a special provision for them to receive a portion of their, $50 billion. So I would imagine Costco wouldn't be mad with having a loss in sales now, knowing that they're going to get some liquidity provided to them, in a couple months. So that's why I imagine they can be willing to play along with the narrative that there's a shortage of meat, if there was not. Global smartphone shipments are down 11.7% in the first quarter compared to last year. Once again, apart from people utilizing some of that stimulus or some of that universal basic allowance, I'm not quite sure who really would be in need of a new cell phone, given the fact that everything that's coming out now is 5G, and 5G towers, I would imagine, if you've noticed, have probably popped up more in your neighborhoods. So all that agenda is still in play. Number 8 says Hong Kong just recorded the worst economic contraction in the city's entire history. And so once again, Hong Kong, for those that may not follow the international or global news, Hong Kong was one of the primary areas that was having the most issues due to social unrest for the last maybe 2 years or a year, definitely a year. And then as of last fall, as a way of dispersing the crowds, all of a sudden now this whole health situation has come about. And to my knowledge, the streets of Hong Kong are empty. But yet the people are now locked inside their house, and I would imagine they're still just as pissed as they were prior to. Number 9, it says U.S. consumer spending was down 7.6% during the first quarter, and there's a report out, I think it was a day or yesterday, mentioning that Q2 will be just as bad when it comes to a lot of the indicators that people look to use to measure GDP. American Airlines posted $2.2 billion worth of loss. It's going to continue on because they're not going to be opening up this second quarter, operating the same way as usual. So expect more losses, but yet they're getting government aid. And then we have bankruptcies. And so I think that's one thing that we will all have to come to accept, is the fact that your local mall, where your major retail chain in the form of, as it says here, Neiman Marcus is joining J.Crew and JCPenney in restructuring as the department stores. And so between all the bankruptcies and just the stores that will not reopen, or will we open and go to the online model, it's going to be different going to a mall. Like, I don't see us actually being able to go back to a mall, and because of the whole idea, if you do go to the mall, you got to wear a mask and all those inconveniences that will become the new norm. So just something worth keeping in mind there. Next one here. Hertz is preparing to file for bankruptcy. And then we got Gold's Gym filing for bankruptcy. Then we have Edmunds is projecting auto sales. The United States this month will be down more than half compared to last year. Then we got Mexico manufacturing not opening back up. It's falling. We have more than 30 million Americans without jobs. It says in March, U.S. home sales declined by double-digit percentages. White House economic warning that the GDP could fall up to 30% during the second quarter, and so forth. So those are the 18 things that Michael Snyder has categorized as being the leading indicators as to why there will be no quick recovery at the end of the day. And so I'm not surprised one bit. But let me get to the phone lines. I want to actually hear from you guys. So give me a call. Let me know what's on your mind. Let's talk about what's going on in your neck of the woods. Anything story-wise that would be a good indicator that perhaps may not have been mentioned. I would love to hear from you guys. And then also, I want to touch on, I saw that in California, it looks as if due to the, I think it was in Santa Monica. I did an article about Santa Monica. They've extended the moratorium when it comes to having to repay the rent from 6 months up into a full year. And so I definitely imagine that puts a lot of strain on landlords if you are not going to receive income possibly for an entire year. So any people out there in real estate, I would love to hear your thoughts on some issues that you see coming or you might be experiencing now. Feel free to let us know. And then also, anyone out there who's taking advantage of the not paying your mortgage or not paying your credit card debts or whatnot, feel free to call in and let us know. I'm curious to find out what your thoughts are on that. And so let me check in via chat here. As always, and so if you are not calling in, highlight at Rethinking a Dollar, and we'll definitely get you on here. So as Ryan says, 5G towers rolling out like a ripped bag of Skittles. Yeah, and the thing with those towers are because they put them up in such close proximity, they're hard to miss. They are hard to miss, and it's one of the things where we're going to find out how dangerous those things are. But we got some calls here, or I had a call. Let me see. I had a call here. Oh, there we go. All right, here we go. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Evan from Sarasota. Mike, how are you this evening?
I'm doing good, my friend. Give me some good news.
All right, so the good news is after my golf game yesterday, I decided to go to this place called the Parrot Bar and Grill here in Sarasota. And I saw them the week before putting up a little sign, so they're going to be open on May 4th. Mm-hmm. So after my game, I decided to stop by there. And they had it set up at the bar where you cannot sit at the bar. Because, seats are like maybe 6 inches a foot apart, so you could not sit at the bar. However, they did have their booths that they have like fixed into the concrete that are kind of along the perimeter, and a few seats within that at the end of the bar. And nobody was wearing a face mask, Mike. It was wonderful. I was just delighted. Yeah. And I sat there, had a couple Mick Ultras, and was just stewing in the fact that I was like, wow, this was life before COVID.
Yeah. Now, so were any of the staff wearing masks, or nobody in the facility was?
No, the staff was not wearing masks. I was blown away, Mike. That's why, the people kind of expected, because this was the day they opened back up. So only the people who have no fear of this thing that's going on are coming out. So I kind of expected what I saw as far as the patrons go, but I did expect to see the staff wearing masks, and they were not. Yeah, which is great. I'm not complaining. I almost wanted to shake everyone's hand, but of course, you extend your hand, you are a weirdo these days. Yeah, it's really strange, Mike.
Well, hey, man, and so hopefully, if that's the current environment you're experiencing, hopefully it stays that way. But I would imagine that, as I mentioned earlier, they're talking about now a new mutation now. So if that's the case, then expect some more, regulations and stuff passed down from the CDC saying that now you have to now do this and this and this. And, we're going to up it from 6 feet to 10 feet. So all that stuff. So, hey, man, I appreciate you calling and sharing what's going on in your world.
All right, Mike, be easy.
Yep, you too. Good stuff, man. I appreciate that call. So that's good to hear that, he had a good experience going out. And I was actually, walking my wife and talking about that. Like, I wonder what will life be like here in Michigan when we finally get some good weather and then actually able to go to some of our old hangout areas. Will it be normal or will it be a new norm as far as everybody in there? I'm not quite sure how you can go to a restaurant, fully covered up and enjoy yourself. How you going to eat? And, so we'll see. But curious to find out what else is going on. Give me a call. Let's talk about it. Ryan says, good news is Jesus is king, bottom line, 100%. Nothing has caught him by surprise, put it like that. And I'm very grateful for that. So we got Daryl from Bloomington, Indiana. How's it going, my friend? We got Faith. How you doing? David Icke needs to get a checkup. This way there will be no question as a cause of his situation. So David Icke, man, he's a long-time fighter of truth. So hopefully everything pans out with him. I'm not sure if anything is wrong with him. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike. It's low blood pressure from Corpus Christi, Texas. How
Corpus
you doing?
Christi. I'm doing good, my friend. How about yourself? Give me some good news.
Oh man, it's hot. Everybody's swimming. The beaches are packed. It's wonderful, Mike. It's like nothing ever happened.
Hey, that's some good news right there, man. It's hot.
It's good. It's good. Like, check it out, man. Today I went to Sam's, Sam's Club.
Yeah.
And there was a line out the door. I guess they got like a little laptop, and they're checking like with a tablet. They're checking to see how many people go in, And I guess when they exit, they click a button. It's like two different people on the same system,
Yeah.
So I didn't even go there. I said I ain't gonna wait in line. It's hot. It was about 91 today.
Yeah.
So I went to Walmart, and like only a third of the people are wearing masks, and I would say maybe 70% of the employees. But I'm not wearing it. Nobody's wearing it, and everybody's like, man, people are catching on, Mike.
Yeah.
You start talking to people, and they're like, yeah, it's just I don't know what's going on, but they want us home. They don't want us to. People, they don't know, the agenda.
Yeah.
But they know something's up, man. People know now.
Yeah.
They, they were pushing that COVID on the news, all day, every day for 24 hours.
Yeah.
People are getting fed up with it.
Yeah, I agree. And so one of the differences, I think, is that in Michigan, especially because we've been labeled as one of the states hit hard. And so now they have it to where, like, I saw stories, I actually pull up one or two where people walk in, like every essential store that's open, they have signs on the door now saying you must wear a mask. So we've had people who short-tempered, no patience, they walk in, don't have a mask, they blow up on you. And we had a young lady got, not too far from me, got arrested, and she, tried to hit the police and spit on people. So people are getting very pissed and angry at being locked down for so long. And then when they go out, they feel that they're being treated wrong by being forced to wear masks, whether they, are for it or not. But to walk in stores here now, you got to have something on your face. And I'm interested to see how long this lasts.
That's crazy. It's a good thing you guys don't got open carry there. That didn't work on crazy. What do you call it?
Yeah.
Right. I just about the mask. I want to tell you real quick.
Yeah.
I go to the commissary. The military base. There's a small naval base here.
Yeah.
And in order to get in there, the post commander made it mandatory. So there you have to wear a mask if you're going to go inside any of the shopping centers there.
Mm-hmm.
And that, so that's the only place where you have to wear them by, mandatory.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you calling. Got a couple more calls on here, and be safe down there and have fun, man. Enjoy that good weather while you got it.
All right. Take it easy. All right, Mike.
Be good.
Good to hear from you. Bye. Bye.
Yeah, man. Good stuff as always. Appreciate hearing from you. So as always, give me a call and let me know what you think. So that's another thing I think we are probably, helping Michigan, we're taking for granted is just the idea that we've been locked down for several weeks now to where people, their patience is running thin when it comes to dealing with strangers because they're quick to respond in a very, in a very abusive and violent way to where a lot of people, we had some people unfortunately, lost their lives due to arguing over masks and stuff like that. So, it's tragic. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name's Adam.
Adam, how you doing, my friend? Give me some good news.
Yeah, I got some good news. Not good news, but I just got news in general. I'm from Toronto.
Okay.
And what's blowing my mind is my friends have a couple. They're landlords, right? They have a couple properties plus Airbnbs, properties, right?
Yeah.
And the Ontario government in Canada has passed a law saying that you cannot kick anybody out, and they can continue to live rent free. Like these people. Like, governments are making up rules as they go along, but nobody's giving any relief. Like, how can you say, okay, don't worry about it, don't pay or whatever? You don't at all, like nothing. Like, you know what I'm saying? And they're getting stimulus checks, but they're saying, well, if you got to eat, don't pay the rent, don't worry about it. And I'm like, how does that work? Like, I don't know where you guys are. If they came up with a rule saying, if you live there, don't worry about paying rent. They can't kick you out. We're not gonna send the sheriff to foreclose, to kick you out or whatever.
Right.
I don't know how it is in your area, but I don't know how people are going to survive. Like, banks want their mortgages paid.
Yeah, I want to say every state. I mean, I think it was up to every state to pass their own legislation on how that was rolled out. And I saw just yesterday that California or a county in California extended it from 6 months to a year, where that same thing applies there. So I think every state might be different. I don't know what Michigan's is, but. A question for you guys up in Canada. What's your stimulus situation like? I mean, is it everybody got a certain payout or unemployment, or what's some of the numbers in your area?
Well, I'm still working because I'm an essential worker, so I got to go to work and collect the check. So, but I've heard, not heard, but you're allowed up to $2,000 a person a month, and then per family. Household, they're allowed 2,000. So I have, neighbors down the road. I don't regret what they're doing, whatever. You have two kids that were working at McDonald's part-time, making whatever they were making, going through school, this and that. Well, you have the whole family, everybody getting $2,000. So what's the incentive of everybody going back to work when you're having $6,000 coming
Wow.
So the household, you know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
Yeah. So the 2,000 per person is already rolled out in Canada, is what you're saying, and that's kind of what they're putting on the table here for what they want to roll out as I did a video earlier talk about universal basic allowance. So you guys already have your allowance then, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And then on top of that, I think they're giving if you have smaller youth, like children, it's $400 or $600 per person. So if you have a big family, what's the incentive of everybody going back to work? Nobody wants to go back to work. Like, I got to go to work. I'm a single, I got a house, I got a mortgage, I don't have anybody, you know what I'm saying? So I got to go out there and sweat, you know what I'm saying? So what's the incentive of people going back to work? You know what I'm saying?
Wow. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you calling and sharing that information. You definitely gave us the update on what's going on in Canada. So I appreciate you, my friend.
All right, thanks.
All right, be good. Wow. Yeah. So that's one of the concerns, man, is that as you roll out this allowance, it will disincentivize people from actually want to go out and sweat and actually earn their keep, especially if, you have people, or if you stand to make more from sitting at home doing nothing, getting your allowance. And even though, as I mentioned several, live streams ago, that allowance comes at great cost, because whatever the government gives away, they got the right to taketh. Whatever the government giveth, they have the right to taketh. Yeah, that'd be a scripture type verse. But anyway, so it's one of the things where every stimulus check you receive in the form of an allowance is less freedom or less rights you'll be able to claim at the end of the day, because you're basically accepting that check or that payment for your future freedom in a sense. So yeah, but that's life. What's going on now, man? So so we got what's going on in the chat here. Feel free to give me a call. Go on a couple more minutes. We're going to dial back. And it says, my biggest question is, why are people wearing masks in their vehicles, especially while driving by themselves? Hey, I don't know. That's a great question. I see it all the time. And I think the biggest thing is, and so here's an indicator. I was actually, walking the dog and saw, someone walking, and I saw, me and my wife saw a person with a mask on just by themselves. I'm like, it's cool as ever outside, wind is blowing. And I'm thinking, like, you can tell who bought the mainstream narrative 100% by just observing what they're wearing in public nowadays. So the people who are driving in their car, they've bought the mainstream narrative hook, line, and sink, to where they are conscious of the fact that if they go outside and breathe air, it could be a carrier. And so you can tell who bought the narrative and who didn't, for the most part, not the most for everybody. Or you might have a person that's, has an immune compromisation to where out of just precautionary measures, they don't want to take a chance. So, I mean, I can understand that, especially if the statistics that show that people who are the most compromised due to prior health issues are the ones that fall victim to whatever is going on. So I guess it's a twofold situation there. And so let's keep it moving right along. Give me some calls. People, let's call. Let me hear what's going on in your world. As always, any new viewers, feel free to let me know where you're watching from. And if you're enjoying the back and forth, don't be afraid to donate a thumbs up. Click the button beneath, and it'll help more people find out about the channel and what we're doing over here. What else we got here? It says the Bible is very clear that the borrower is always slave to the lender. Very true. Very true. What else? Only wearing a mask if I can get in somewhere with it. That's it. And that's another thing. Okay, so here in Michigan, in order to go in stores, as I mentioned, you'll have to wear one. And so it's one of them things where you may not buy the mainstream narrative, but if you want to go shopping for yourself, you're going to have to put something on your face. And so the question will be from that point on is, at what point do they say you no longer need those things? And I hope it's not at the point where they say, there's a vaccine for you to take. And so that, according to Trump, he said in a couple months. And then also we have the people who are promoting this. So far, there's over 100 companies that they're working on a vaccine for this, as if like that's going to be the cure. But then also there's just all types of, I got some videos to share with you guys on that one as well. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, how you doing, Mike? My name is Mr. White.
Mr. White, give me some good news.
Well, I'm calling from the Midwest.
Okay.
I'm in the banking industry.
Okay.
And I just want to give you guys a heads up that, where I work at, we work with digital currency. And there's cash on the other side of the street where we, deal with cash and, brings trucks and all that.
Yeah.
But we are expanding the servers for what? I don't know.
Really?
And I just want to give you guys a heads up. Whatever's going on, digital-wise, we're doubling. Like, let's say if it was a restaurant with a whole bunch of dining tables, imagine that restaurant having twice the amount of dining tables. And we're going 24/7. And I think I better leave it at that. You guys have a good day. Stack your silver and precious metals and prepare for what's coming.
All righty, my friend. And so I appreciate your calling. Would love to ask more questions, but it sounds like you want to keep it to the minimum. So I respect that. So thanks for calling in and keep us up to date if you don't mind.
I'll try.
All right, my friend. Thank you. Man, that's interesting perspective. I appreciate your caller, Mr. White, for sharing that. Definitely keep us informed because I think a lot of people would like to find out more about that. And so they're expanding their servers. So that's letting us know that they need extra storage for something. Therefore, whatever. So the question will then be if this, is it bank? Is it major regional banks that are expanding their storage, or is it small little mom and pop banks, or not mom and pop bank, but the smaller banks as well? Or is it just, bank wide? Is it too big to fail banks expanding, or all banks supposed to expand, or what? And so what will be operating their own coins or so that's stuff I'm curious, Mr. White. So shoot me an email if you don't mind. Go to rethinkingthedollar.com and chime in a little bit. I would love to find out more, and I'll keep it between me and you if you like. But anyway, let's keep it moving right along. So definitely get your weight up. Sounds like at the end of the day, what you might want to do. And so, but it looks like the banks are preparing for something. Therefore, they will still be in the equation to some capacity. And can you say centralized currency, perhaps in the form of new digits and coins and new individual banking coins? I wouldn't doubt. All right, man, that's some good stuff. I appreciate that. It says, let me see. I work at a grocery store. I see how gullible people can be, expanding their servers and shrinking their vaults. Right. So there'll be not much need for actual physical cash. And then there's let me see, I don't have it, but there's an article talking about how, negative rates, because we're already at zero, basically, and how negative rates are around the corner. Real nominal rates are around the corner. And I'd imagine with the ramp up of servers, I just hinted at, all those servers and stuff have to be in place for the time where negative interest rates come in, because I'd imagine along with those negative rates, they're going to roll out whatever digital blips they're going to try to, push on the people in exchange for those that will not be able to withdraw cash, or cash will be taxed, as the IMF put in their little white paper that I talked about a couple of weeks ago, or months ago rather. So we have another call here. Let me get this call. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike. This is Aaron from Iowa. How are you?
Aaron from Iowa. I'm doing great, my friend. Give me some good news from Iowa.
Well, I would like to, but my wife just sent me a text.
Uh-oh.
There's a grocery store chain in the Midwest called Hy-Vee. I don't know if they're in Michigan, but they're in Nebraska, Minnesota, Kansas, and so forth. Well, they just issued, starting tomorrow, they're limiting the amount of meat you can purchase at the stores to 4 packages per person because there are shortages.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so it is the real deal. Okay, interesting.
It's the real deal.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you for keeping us up to date. I've never heard of that grocery chain, so they're not here in Michigan, but I'm assuming they're probably scattered throughout the Midwest, so, people got the heads up. I appreciate you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. You have a great day.
All right, you as well. Yeah, so it looks like there are retail chains that are actually putting out the word. And so whether, as I mentioned earlier, I would, so watch this. We've witnessed over the last couple of years, especially during the presidential campaign time, as well as during all the current hurricanes down in Puerto Rico, how just a couple of weeks ago, months ago rather, they opened up warehouses that were stocked with food and stuff like that from back at Hurricane Irma days. So 2-3 years of warehouses stocked full with relief aid provided by the government was in warehouses. So could this be a situation where they were told to cut? I mean, I'm not outside of the meat factories and all the sick and stuff, people coming down, whatever, them shutting down, but by escalating the narrative of things are really crumbling, let's hold back on some of the meat. Let's just not, we're going to, tell stores we're going to limit it, but we're going to ship it here and make sure, all the higher ups get their shelves and their refrigerator stock first while we tell everybody else there's a shortage. So, but yet if you go to the store, there's nothing there. So I think a lot of people, if this escalates beyond what it is now, a lot of people might, become vegans or something like that. And that's already a phase that people are choosing to do, but it might be forced to do such. So, but what else we got going on here? A couple more calls and we're going to dial back. It's been good to get a check-in from everybody to see what's going on. And so highlight that rethinking the dollar, and it'll stand out, and we can definitely address that as well. So Addo says Digibyte is up 100% over a week. Very true. Went from 0.005 cents to almost 2 cents. And hopefully it goes well beyond its all-time high of 7. And a lot of people will be better off and a lot happier, I'm sure. Philman says, question, is it necessary for them to put a microchip in those V things if there are cell phones to track people? I would imagine it's not necessary, but I would imagine there's a lot more going into the whole microchipping aspect other than just the tracking of your geographical location. As I mentioned before, the whole movement towards the Internet of Things and the need for 5G is to make sure that we're connected to a cloud source that will probably be rolled out by Microsoft, Google, or whatever. And so they want us to actually be able to connect at all times to the cloud. And so I would imagine whatever is going to be in that vaccine will be the beginning of what that'll be the first installment for them to be able to track and trace and download your medical history, your credit score, your social credit score, your financial records, and all that stuff like that in that initial dosage. But then there's going to be some upgrades to where they're going to actually have to, go beyond your phone. And through technology, they're going to always be able to sell the latest and greatest widget. Next is going to be, just your iPhone watch that does everything. We no longer need to carry a phone. Then it's going to be something that's in your skin. Then something you can wear on your Google glasses never took off, but that's going to come back. Then they're going to ask you to put something in your ear that can talk to you and connect directly. And so all that stuff is in the works. So I think the first step might be a microchip. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike. Mike. It's me, Aisha from Las Vegas.
Aisha from Las Vegas. How are you doing? Give me some good news from Las Vegas.
Good news. It is. I'm sitting in my car and it's 96 degrees and I don't have a face mask on.
96 degrees. Okay. No mask. Well, go ahead.
I wanted to call in and talk a little bit about cash and how they're kind of doing away with cash. Now, I called them before, maybe about a month ago.
Yeah.
I also work at the grocery store. I won't say which grocery store I work at. As of right now, a lot of people, or I should say our customers, are talking about the limits on meat. We haven't really implemented it as of yet, but people are very aware of it. I say, I won't name this particular grocery, it was a grocery store, and I went to this grocery store sometime about a week, 2 weeks ago, and I was waiting in line, and then I noticed there was signage up, and basically they closed all the registers but one. If you had debit, credit, food stamps, any type of card, you can go through all the open registers, but they had one line, which was the longest, that you could use cash. What I did is I asked the cashier, happened to know the cashier, and said, hey, quick question, what happened? I don't know, something's wrong with the registers. I said, okay, that's fine, glitches happen all the time. I went back about a week later, same thing, same signage, and they made all the people that had cash go into a different line. But if you had debit, credit, EBT, whatever the case may be, any type of card, they made it very easy for you and you got out faster. So that just, kind of a light bulb went off in my head, and it kind of made me think that how they're trying to, usher in cashless, don't use your cash. Cash is dirty. But I'm like, we've been using cash for a very long time now, but now all of a sudden it's dirty. But I just wanted to call in and say, hey, am I not wearing a face mask? And I don't believe in the face mask. I'm sorry, that's just me. That's my opinion. I remember hearing a story probably about a week ago that a lady was driving in a car, suffocated herself. She passed out, crashed the car, and killed herself. So,
Okay.
Face masks are optional, I think.
Well, hey, I appreciate you.
Thanks for taking my call.
All right. Thanks for calling in. Wow. So interesting. That's so cash. So it's just more. There's more. There's going to be more ways for them to try to remove cash. And so whether it be the banking situation that's experiencing some difficulties real soon, and so we had to call in about the servers being doubled and tripled or whatnot. They're ramping up there, and then you have the scare itself, which, as I mentioned before, is just plays into the cashless society push, because they're going to use it as a scapegoat, saying that it carries a certain health scare, and people, out of just not wanting to come across anything whatsoever, will not want to handle cash, and it'll be easier. And so I even noticed on, I think it was Myers the other day. Myers now has a app where you can do everything through the app. So it's like mimicking the Amazon, was it the contactless grocery shopping, where you walk in, all you need to do is just, as you walk in, and you just walk right out, because it's checks through your phone or whatever and stuff like that. So a lot of major retail and grocery stores will not be rolling that out. So and so it's more of a push for cashless. And then also it's a part of the Boost Act, as I mentioned earlier. Get ready for the announcement of some type of digital dollar, which, now that I think about it, when it comes to the banking sector and them needing to ramp up their servers, I'm trying to figure, will they be they'll probably have to store all the data for everyone's accounts, but it'll be through the Federal Reserve or Treasury. So it's going to be interesting to see how that's rolled out. But there are things in the works that you should be aware of. So we'll keep an eye on it. It says cash is king, stop playing. Yeah, as long as it spins, for now it's good, but there will come a day when people will not be able to get rid of it fast enough. And so what else we got here? So, all right, with that being the case, it's 44 minutes, going to get ready to dial back. All right, it says Mike's banks are going to be the miners. Ooh, miners, but miners for what? Miners for their own. It won't be their own individual bank coins, I don't think, because that would, I don't know. So I'm gonna leave it at that. But it's going to be centralized, and it will not be, like Bitcoin miners. I don't see them mining Bitcoin, but I don't know. But obviously, it's something that's not physical in nature. So in the meantime, while you're still able to get your weight up, do that, because you can't go wrong with the weight for now. So Anyway, people, it's been great hanging out. Going to dial back from there as always. If you guys have not, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to support the channel, feel free to scroll below and become a partner with me via the Patreon aspect. Or if you want to donate, I appreciate that as well. And other than that, see you guys tomorrow. Another same day, different time, and different day. Same subject matter, probably. More of what they're trying to roll out on us. So be blessed, be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.